All right, we'll next take up People versus Paul Gilguinness. This case is set for a probation violation hearing today. The defendant appears via Zoom and from Nuevo County Jail. And Mr. Gilguinness, do you understand that you have the right to be physically present in court if we have a contested hearing regarding this probation violation?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
And if we proceed to sentencing today, either by plea agreement or after, assuming that if I would find you guilty at a probation violation hearing, that if we proceeded to sentencing today, that you would have the right to be physically present for that proceeding as well. Do you understand that?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
And do you waive or give up the right to be physically present in court, either for a contested hearing or for sentencing, and agree to be handled today's proceedings by Zoom?
Yes, yes, I do.
All right. And Mr. Shepard, do you wish to have a contested hearing, or are you contemplating a plea?
At this point, Your Honor, I've met with my client. I reviewed the information provided by Agent Mussman, shared that information with my client last week, received it based on what we read and also the recommendation. I believe my client was ready to offer a plea of guilt to the probation violation.
All right. Mr. Stade, the recommendation was that Mr. Gilguinness's advisory guidelines would suggest a sentence between 0 and 11 months. The probation office is recommending 9 months in jail, credit for 203, and that his probation be revoked. Do you adopt that recommendation as a plea agreement?
People do, Your Honor.
All right. And Mr. Gilguinness, would you raise your right hand, please, sir? You solemnly swear, oath, or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
You can put your hand down. All right, so the allegations in this case are as follows: that you were on probation for operating while intoxicated, third offense. This carries a 5-year maximum penalty, and your advisory guidelines would suggest a sentence between 0 and 11 months. Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
That are about January 29th, 2019, that you were placed on probation to this court. You understand that?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
And the allegation is that you are alleged to have violated condition number 3.7 in that you had failed to comply with the Michigan Department of Corrections electronic monitoring program and/or remote alcohol monitoring program by having a confirmed alcohol consumption on or about September 6, 2020. Do you understand that that's the allegation against you? Yes,
I do, Your Honor.
And there's been an agreement in this case that if you enter a plea of guilty to violating your probation, the agreed upon sentence is 9 months in jail, and that your probation would be revoked. And you'd have 203 days credit against the 9-month sentence. Is that your understanding of the plea agreement?
Yes, it is, Your Honor.
And have you had sufficient time to consult with Mr. Shepard about this plea agreement about the allegations and your right to have a contested hearing regarding this allegation.
Yes, I have, Your Honor.
Then subject to the plea agreement, how do you wish to plead to violating your probation?
I will plead guilty.
You understand that if your plea of guilty is accepted, that you would be giving up the right to have a contested hearing regarding this allegation.
Yes, I do.
You also understand that you would be giving up certain rights that you would have at that contested hearing, and we've listed those rights for you on an advice of rights sheet. You remember reading probation violation advice of rights sheet?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
Did you understand those rights?
Yes, I did.
Did you sign an advice of rights form?
I'm not clear if I had signed that form or not. I'm really not sure if I did.
All right,
I
Mr. Shepard.
I received it, but unless it was from Mr. Shepard, then I would have signed it, yes.
Mr. Shepard, have you gone over Mr. Gilguinness's rights that he would have at a contested hearing?
Yes, Your Honor, I met with him last week while he was during his incarceration. I believe it was Friday. We had a conversation, albeit somewhat harder for him to hear, given that I was in the room where the phone didn't work. So I was screaming, but audibly. I believe he understands. Then we did go through.
All right. And Mr. Gilguinness, I do have a probation violation advice of rights form that was signed on January 24th, 2020. That would have been with one of your prior probation violations, but the rights are the same. Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
All right. Has anyone threatened you to get you to make this plea?
No, Your Honor.
Has anyone promised you an outcome different than what we've covered in court today?
No, Your Honor.
Are you entering this plea of your own free will and free choice?
Yes, I am.
Do you understand that if I accept your plea, you're giving up the right to later claim that the plea was the result of any promises, threats, or inducements that you don't tell me about today?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
You understand that you're giving up the right to appeal any appealable issues you would have if you went to a contested hearing and I found you guilty?
Yes, I do.
You understand that you're giving up the right to appeal this conviction, and if you wish to file an appeal, it would be by application for you to appeal in the Court of Appeals?
Yes, I do.
You now give up your right to have a contested hearing and all the rights that you would have at that contested hearing and affirm your guilty plea?
Yes.
Are you pleading guilty because you are guilty or for some other reason?
I am guilty.
Is it true then that back on January 29th, 2019, that you were placed on probation to this court for the felony offense of operating while intoxicated, third, a 5-year felony?
Yes, Your Honor.
And do you understand that it was also a condition of your probation that you abide by the terms of the electronic monitoring program and/or remote alcohol monitoring program?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
And did you violate the terms of that program on or about September 6th, 2020?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
Tell me what you did to violate that term of probation.
I probably consumed approximately six beers throughout the day from approximately 11:30 to 11 at night, approximately.
All right. And given your situation, why were you consuming beer?
I've had a long life of struggling with alcohol, Your Honor. It's an addiction I've been trying to kick for quite a while. I'm really want to be done with it through my life. I want to resume a normal life. I'm still a struggle for me. I'm going to continue. I want to keep my sobriety. I don't know why. I'm happy sober. I want to continue that life. I don't want to go back to being alcohol consuming my life. I enjoy my life without it. I don't know why I slip sometimes, and I'm sorry that I do, and I don't want it ever to happen again, and I hope to continue being sober throughout my life. for legal purposes, personal purposes, and health reasons.
All right. And the report indicates that on August 18th, that they got an alert for a scram alert, and you said that you spilled some gasoline on your hands, and that got on, could have set off the tether. Do you admit now that that explanation was nonsense and you were just actually drinking alcohol that day?
No, Your Honor, that was actually gasoline. I was on August 18th.
Yes, sir.
That was actually, I did spill gasoline on myself August 18th. I was working on my lawnmower. And that date, I actually did spill gasoline on myself.
How about on August 31st, when you received another tampering alert? What were you doing then?
I believe I was made aware from Mr. Musman that there was a 3-day tampering on the device, and he confronted me on that problem, and I told him I had, not, as far as I had known, I'd done nothing different to set the device off on a 3-day period. I'm not quite sure, and as far as he knew, he just said he didn't quite know what had happened at that situation also.
All right, how about back on February 24th, where they did a home check and they found a bottle of rum in the refrigerator, and you said that it was your girlfriend's from several months ago.
Yes, that is true, Your Honor.
All right.
Yes, Your Honor, that is true. I'm going back to one of your dates. Maybe I'm confused on some of the dates. I did consume what I had thought were a couple of non-alcoholic beers on, I would think that would be in the August dates or the July dates. And that was brought up, and I did tell Mr. Musman that I had consumed some O'Doul's beer that had alcohol in it. And I told him that that's what had happened, and it did register on the scram, which violated and he issued me 3 more months out of the scram because of that situation.
All right, are the attorneys aware of any promises, threats, or inducements which have not been stated on the record?
No, Your Honor.
No, Judge.
Is the defendant competent to enter this plea?
Yes, Your Honor.
I believe he is, Judge.
Is the court comply with the court obtained taking a plea in a probation violation case?
You have, Your Honor.
The court has.
All right, the court does accept the plea. I do find it to be knowing, understanding, voluntary, and accurate. There's been an updated pre-sentence investigation report. The parties wish to proceed to sentencing today.
People do, Your Honor.
With no objection, Your Honor.
All right. And was the updated report timely made available to you?
It was, Your Honor.
It was, Judge.
And Mr. Shepard, have you had the opportunity to read the report and discuss it with your client?
I believe we did last week.
Do you have any additions, corrections, or challenges?
I don't believe it this time.
Anything that you'd like to say on your client's behalf?
Yes, and I appreciate the opportunity. First and foremost, Judge, I think that when the court reviews the history on this case, I think the court's right to question and have concern, Mr. Luganis. I appreciate his candid comments here. They are they're true in terms of his lifelong struggle. I think that's something Paul's always going to struggle with. I appreciate his candor admitting what happened here. I've been provided with the scram system report. It seems as though his story is consistent with that. I also appreciate Paul noting for the court the issue with the O'Douls. I think that moving forward, I think Paul is going to have to take his sobriety a bit more by the horns and get into some sort of structured support, Judge, because this is, as he said, something he has struggled with and may continue to struggle with. I would note that the good news here is that despite the violation and despite his admission and understanding the plea agreement, Paul did have the sense to not attempt to drive while drinking, which is obviously a step in the right direction. he's telling the truth here today and he bringing up the O'Doul's incident. I think that the court can utilize that in terms of determining his credibility with regard to the other situations. Bottom line here is that the only person that can help Paul is Paul, but he has to be willing to take the steps necessary, incarceration aside, when he's released. I'd ask the court to consider all those things. Also, over the course of the time he was on probation, and Mr. Musman, I think, would support this, there were several months, there were several good things Paul was able to do, despite the questions and despite the violations, I would say, for purposes today, violations. So I'd ask the court to consider those things. Also, I've spoken to Paul's mother, and I believe that his family support system, in addition to her, is hopeful that he's able to utilize this as kind of a wake-up call yet again, so that he stops the drinking and is willing to put the work in to address the problem. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Gilguinness, have you had the opportunity to read the report and discuss it with Mr. Shepard?
Yes, I have.
Do you have any additions, corrections, or challenges?
No, I don't, Your Honor.
Is there anything that you'd like to say on your own behalf?
I want to live a sober life. I'm happy, sober. I don't want to slip up anymore, and I want this cycle to end in my life, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Stay, any additions, corrections, or challenges?
No, Your Honor.
Anything that you want the court to consider?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Agent Musman,
Yes, Your Honor.
all those other incidents that were explained away, did you and do you believe Mr. Gilguinness, or do you think he's just in complete denial that he just continued to drink while on probation?
I believe on some of those incidences that he told me is true. However, there have been times, such as in January when he reported to me and he was intoxicated at that time. He went through a probation violation, ended up being put on the scram at that time. He went many months there, actually not getting in trouble or staying sober. So he can do it. He's gone through counseling, which he can do that with flying colors, no problem. But I think that he needs to stay away from his girlfriend, who isn't helping him. He wants to get through it by not drinking, because they've had relationship issues, and she's brought alcohol in the home there, and help him that way. So some of those incidents I do believe in, some of them I don't. And it's just, there's nothing that we can do for probation. As I stated, we've gone through counseling already with them, and he goes through that with flying colors. Don't know what else we can do for him.
All right, the court recognizes that the advisory guidelines in this case would suggest a sentence between 0 and 11 months. The court's going to exercise my discretion in sentence consistent with the advisory guidelines and consistent with the plea agreement in this case. For the sentence, the court that this defendant served 9 months in the Nuevo County Jail, give him credit for the 203 days he's already served. The court is going to revoke probation because it doesn't seem to have any impact on you at all, Mr. Gilguinness. And you've already paid your financial assessments. I don't believe you. Those other incidents that didn't come before the court, I think you're kidding yourself. And when you talk about getting serious about wanting it, you need to be honest with yourself and apply what you learn. You're not going to do it. You're too old. You're not going to learn. And the court will see you back here, or the court will hear that you're in another court for drinking and driving because you just can't keep it together for that period of time. And you can say the words, but you really haven't got any insight. So until we see you again, that's the court's sentence. You do have the right to make application for leave to appeal. If you could not afford an attorney, the court will appoint an attorney to represent you on appeal. Request for a lawyer must be filed in court within 42 days. That's all for today.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Your Honor. think so. I don't think I talked to my lawyer or anything.